Listen to me carefully, because this may be the most important message you'll ever hear in your lifetime. You are not who the world says you are. You are not your mistakes. You are not your job title. You are not the number of followers you have, the clothes you wear, or the opinions people carry about you. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. The greatest tragedy is living your whole life as someone you were never meant to be. Some of you are breathing, but not living, existing, but not evolving, busy, but not becoming. The world has programmed you, shaped you, and named you. But there's a version of you that God Himself designed, a version that's been buried under pressure, opinions, fear, and comparison. And today, this is not just a speech, it's a wake-up call. Because if you don't reconnect with the real you before it's too late, you'll end up successful at the wrong thing. Let me tell you something life-changing. The real you never disappeared. It didn't die. It didn't vanish. It didn't expire. It's still there, deep within you, covered under layers of fear, disappointment, rejection, and the need to please others. You were born original, pure, unique, and filled with purpose. But as life went on, the noise around you grew louder than the voice within you. The child who once dreamed freely started shrinking. The young heart that believed anything was possible began to doubt. You began adjusting, pretending, conforming, all because the world convinced you that being yourself wasn't enough. But the truth is, God never makes mistakes. When He created you, He placed a specific identity within you, one no one else can copy. You were designed with precision, with intention, with destiny written into your DNA. The problem isn't that you lost who you are, it's that you disconnected from it. Like a phone that's no longer charging because the cable came loose, your inner power stopped flowing because you unplugged from your original source. Every time you said yes when your soul screamed no, you drifted further away. Every time you compared yourself to others, you dimmed your own light. Every time you chased approval instead of purpose, you buried another piece of your real self. But here's the beauty. Nothing can erase what God placed within you. It can be buried, it can be silenced, but it cannot be destroyed. The real you is still breathing beneath the surface, waiting for you to remember. Look at your life right now. How much of it truly reflects who you are? Most people are actors in a movie called Expectations. They wake up every morning putting on a mask, pretending to be fine, pretending to fit in, pretending to love a version of life that doesn't even belong to them. They live in performance mode, working jobs they hate, pleasing people they don't respect, chasing goals they don't even desire, all because somewhere along the way they lost connection with their true design. Think of it this way. If you buy a phone but never connect it to a charger, it will still look good for a while. But eventually, no matter how expensive or advanced it is, it will shut down. The same thing happens with people. You can keep shining on the outside, nice clothes, good photos, fancy lifestyle, but if you're disconnected inside, you'll eventually run out of energy, out of peace, out of joy. You can't function properly when you're disconnected from your true identity. You were not created to live as a copy. You were made to lead, to innovate, to bring something fresh into the world that only you could deliver. When you try to be like others, you rob the world of your originality. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs the version of you that God designed. The one who laughs differently, thinks differently, dreams differently. That uniqueness is not a flaw, it's your signature. I want you to remember your childhood for a moment. Remember how fearless you were. You didn't care what people thought. You could dance without music, sing off key and still smile, dream about flying and believe it could happen. That was your natural state, faith, confidence, creativity, and courage. But as you grew, society taught you rules. They told you to sit still, stay quiet, be realistic, stop dreaming. And you believed them. That's how disconnection begins. Not suddenly, but slowly. Bit by bit, the world tames you. But here's the truth. What the world calls too much is exactly what makes you powerful. The energy they said was too strong. The voice they told you to lower. The dreams they said were impossible. Those were signs of your original identity. You didn't lose them, you just stopped using them. And the only reason you stopped is because you wanted to fit in. But fitting in is the enemy of authenticity. When you try to belong everywhere, you end up belonging nowhere. The real you doesn't crave validation, it craves purpose. The real you doesn't chase approval, it chases alignment. The real you doesn't fear being alone, it fears living fake. That's why deep inside you sometimes feel restless, even when everything looks fine. That discomfort you feel, it's your soul trying to wake you up. It's saying, I miss the real you. A life has a way of reminding us who we are, through failure, heartbreak, loss, or even stillness. Sometimes you need to lose everything you pretended to be before you can rediscover who you truly are. And once you find that connection again, everything changes. Decisions become clearer. Peace replaces pressure, purpose replaces confusion. Because when you reconnect with your true identity, you stop living by accident and start living by design. Look at an eagle. It's built to fly at high altitudes. But if it starts walking among chickens, it forgets its wings. The same happens with you when you surround yourself with people who don't see your value. You start acting like them, thinking like them, limiting yourself like them. But deep down, you were born to soar. You were never meant to live grounded in fear. You were meant to rise in purpose. You can't reconnect with the real you until you stop running from silence. In the still moments, that's when your soul speaks. When you turn off the noise of the world, social media, opinions, pressure, and just listen, you'll hear your true self whispering again. That voice inside you has been waiting patiently. It's not gone, it's simply been ignored. Every day you wake up is another chance to return to your original state, the version of you that was confident before the criticism, joyful before the pain, fearless before the fear. That version still exists. You just have to reach within and plug back into the source that created you. Because once you reconnect, the power flows again. The vision comes alive again. The peace returns. The fire reignites. And suddenly you remember, this is who I was always meant to be. You didn't start out as who you've become. Life shaped you, bent you, tested you, and sometimes broke you. Your environment, your upbringing, your experiences, your failures, your heartbreaks, all left fingerprints on your soul. But none of those things ever had the authority to define you. They only influenced you. Somewhere along the way, you began to confuse what happened to you with who you are. You started to wear your pain like an identity tag. You began to think, this is just me now, when in reality, that's not you. That's what the world molded you into. And the danger of that belief is that it makes you live trapped in a cage you have the key to open. You are not your environment. You are a product of your choices within that environment. Think about a seed. You can plant a seed in dry, cracked soil and it might struggle to grow. You can plant that same seed in rich soil and it will flourish. The potential inside the seed never changed, only the surroundings did. You're the same way. Your potential doesn't disappear just because you were planted in hard places. You might have grown up in negativity, around doubt, fear, poverty, or limitation, but that doesn't mean you have to become those things. You can bloom in the desert if you remember that your roots reach deeper than your environment. Many people spend their lives blaming where they came from as the reason for where they are. I didn't have support. I grew up in the wrong place. No one believed in me. But listen, your environment may have influenced your start, but it cannot control your finish. The truth is, diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified through fire. So maybe your environment wasn't a punishment. Maybe it was preparation. Maybe the rough places you came from were God's way of proving how strong you really are. You see, environment has a voice. It whispers, you can't. You'll never make it. Stay where you are. And if you listen too long, you begin to believe those lies. You start walking like your surroundings, talking like your surroundings, thinking like your surroundings. That's why some of the most powerful people you'll ever meet had to separate themselves from where they were. Because when your vision is greater than your environment, you have to leave one to protect the other. Look at your life. Maybe you were surrounded by negativity for so long that optimism feels strange. Maybe you've been criticized so often that you forgot how to believe in yourself. But deep down, you know you were meant for more. Every time you feel that pull inside your heart, that restlessness, that whisper that says, there's something greater, that's your true self trying to rise above your environment. You can't allow your surroundings to dictate your identity. If you grew up hearing you're not good enough, prove that voice wrong. If you were told you can't achieve, let your success be the answer. Your environment might have written the introduction of your story, but you hold the pen for the next chapters. Just because you came from chaos doesn't mean chaos has to come from you. You might have grown up around limitation, but that doesn't mean you have to think limited. You can be the one who breaks the pattern. You can be the one who says, this stops with me. Think about a flower growing through concrete. It doesn't wait for better conditions. It pushes through the cracks and finds the sunlight. That's what strength looks like. It's not about avoiding tough environments. It's about thriving despite them. Some of you are surrounded by people who don't believe in your dream, but that doesn't mean the dream isn't real. Some of you are working in places that drain your energy, but that doesn't mean your purpose is dead. The environment around you doesn't determine the value within you. You might be in a place that looks impossible, but remember, every eagle starts in a nest. The nest is comfortable for a while, but there comes a day when the mother pushes the eaglet out. Why? Because if it never falls, it will never learn to fly. The push was painful, but it was necessary. Maybe the things falling apart in your life aren't meant to destroy you. Maybe they're meant to push you into your wings. Sometimes discomfort is divine. Don't be afraid to outgrow your environment. Growth always creates tension. When you start thinking differently, the people who knew the old you might not understand. When you start dreaming bigger, those still stuck in small thinking will try to pull you back down. But you have to decide, do I want to stay comfortable, or do I want to become everything I was created to be? Comfort is the enemy of progress. If you stay too long in a place that no longer matches your potential, you'll start to shrink to fit in. You can't shine in every environment. Sometimes you have to move, shift, reposition yourself. Don't apologize for changing. You're not being arrogant, you're being awakened. You're not better than anyone. You're just finally remembering who you are. The caterpillar doesn't owe anyone an explanation when it becomes a butterfly. It doesn't ask for permission to fly. It just flies. So if your environment once broke you, use that experience as your foundation. Let the pain remind you of your power. Every difficult place you've been in was shaping you, teaching you, preparing you for something greater. You are not a product of your surroundings. You are proof that greatness can rise from anywhere. The place you came from was never your limitation. It was your launching pad. And the moment you stop letting your environment define you, that's the moment you step into the real you. The version that was created to rise above circumstances, not be controlled by them. You can't run from yourself forever. You can avoid people, hide behind business, drown your thoughts in distractions. But sooner or later, you have to face the person staring back at you in the mirror. And that moment, that raw, quiet, uncomfortable moment, is where real transformation begins. Most people fear silence, not because of what's around them, but because of what's inside them. The truth is, many of us have never taken the time to truly meet ourselves. We know our favorite food, our favorite music, maybe our job title, but not our true identity, not the person we were before pain changed our confidence, before failure built our walls, before rejection made us pretend. You see, facing yourself is not about judging what you see, it's about understanding it. When you look in the mirror, you're not just seeing your reflection, You're seeing your choices, your patterns, your beliefs, your hidden potential, and your buried truth. Most people avoid that reflection because it exposes everything they've been running from. It's easier to point fingers than to look inward. It's easier to blame your parents, your past, your circumstances, but deep inside, you know the real battle is within you. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't grow from what you keep denying. We live in a generation obsessed with watching others, scrolling through their lives, comparing every detail, wishing we had their success or their beauty. But let me tell you something powerful: comparison kills clarity. You can't discover yourself while you're busy studying someone else. You can't walk your own path while your eyes are glued to another person's lane. Your destiny is not found in imitation. It's revealed through self-discovery. You can't unlock your greatness with someone else's key. Think about it. How can you build a life that fulfills you when you don't even know who you are? It's like trying to decorate a house in the dark. You end up bumping into walls, guessing what fits, and never seeing the beauty that's already there. That's how most people live, blind to their own worth, designing their lives based on other people's opinions. But when you take time to rediscover yourself, to understand your strengths, your triggers, your dreams, your wounds, that's when life begins to make sense. Self-discovery isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because when you know who you are, you stop begging others to tell you. You stop chasing validation because you've already found your value. You stop letting people define you because you've already defined yourself. And when you reach that point, you become unstoppable. Look at your reflection and ask, who am I when no one is watching? What do I stand for when everything is taken away from me? What do I really want from life? Those questions are scary because they strip away every illusion. They force you to confront your truth, the good, the bad, and the buried. But in that confrontation lies your power, because once you face it, it can no longer control you. Maybe you've been pretending for so long that you forgot how authenticity feels. Maybe you've been smiling on the outside while fighting storms on the inside. But the real you, the one that's tired of pretending, is calling you back. It's saying, stop running, stop hiding, I'm still here. Every great leader, every visionary, every world changer had to go through a season of isolation, a time where they stepped away from the noise to hear their own soul again. They had to unlearn who the world told them to be so they could rediscover who they were created to be. That's what self-discovery looks like, peeling away layers of expectations until all that's left is truth. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't lead others when you haven't led yourself. You can't find peace outside when there's chaos inside. That's why you must stop running from the mirror. The mirror doesn't lie. It reflects not just your face, but your story. It shows your scars and your strength, your pain and your power. It reveals not what's missing, but what's possible. When you start discovering yourself, you'll notice something amazing. The things you used to chase will start chasing you. Opportunities will align with your authenticity. People will be drawn to your light because it's real. The right doors open when you finally stop pretending to be someone else. Because destiny doesn't recognize masks. It only responds to truth. Think of it like this. If you don't know your worth, you'll keep accepting discounts. If you don't know your identity, you'll keep settling for less. But once you know who you are, you start saying no to things that don't align with your value. You stop forcing connections that drain you. You stop settling for environments that suffocate you. Because self-discovery makes you protective of your peace. Every time you avoid the mirror, you delay your destiny. Every time you refuse to look within, you remain trapped by the past. But the day you decide to confront yourself with honesty, humility, and courage, that's the day your life changes forever. The truth may hurt at first, but it heals deeper than any lie. Because lies may comfort you temporarily, but truth transforms you permanently. Self-discovery is not about finding something new. It's about remembering what was always there. that spark you once had, that voice inside you that knows right from wrong, that dream that refuses to die. It's still there, waiting for your attention. The mirror isn't your enemy, it's your invitation to return home to yourself. And the moment you accept that invitation, you stop living by accident and start living on purpose. Sometimes you have to step away from the crowd to find your clarity again. Life is loud, full of distractions, opinions, notifications, expectations, and endless noise trying to tell you who to be. You wake up every day pulled in 1,000 directions, by your job, by people, by responsibilities, until you forget what your own voice even sounds like. That's why reconnection with yourself begins in silence, in solitude, in that sacred space where you finally stop running and start listening. Most people are terrified of being alone, not because of the quiet, but because of what they might hear in it. When everything else fades away, when there's no music, no scrolling, no small talk, the truth begins to speak. And that's where healing starts. Isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. Sometimes God separates you because the crowd can't hear what He's trying to tell you in private. The greatest revelations don't happen in the noise of celebration. They happen in the quiet of reflection. You can't rediscover your purpose when you're surrounded by people who are comfortable with your confusion. You have to withdraw for a while. Like an eagle that leaves the flock to renew its feathers, you must detach from what drains you to restore what defines you. It's in isolation that your strength regenerates, your vision clears, and your inner voice grows louder than the opinions of others. Look at every major turning point in your life. Wasn't it born out of a moment of stillness? When you finally got tired of pretending, tired of running, tired of fitting in. That's not weakness, that's awakening. Because when you slow down long enough to face yourself, you begin to see where you've been hiding behind distractions. You realize how much of your energy has been spent trying to be accepted rather than being authentic. Isolation gives you space to think again, to breathe again, to ask the questions that truly matter. Who am I becoming? What am I doing this for? What actually makes me happy? These are not questions the world will answer for you. They can only be answered in silence. Reflection is the second part of reconnection. It's when you start replaying your journey, not to relive the pain, but to extract the wisdom. Reflection allows you to see patterns, lessons, and blessings hidden inside what once felt like chaos. It helps you understand that nothing you've been through was wasted. Every heartbreak taught you resilience, every failure refined your focus, every delay protected your destiny. But you can only see that when you pause long enough to look back with open eyes. Most people keep moving because they fear reflection will hurt. But reflection doesn't hurt. Denial does. Facing your story gives you power over it. You can't move forward without understanding where you are. You can't build the future if you're still avoiding the lessons of your past. Reflection is the mirror that reveals your progress. It's where you admit, yes, I've made mistakes, but I've grown. Yes, I've fallen, but I've learned. It's that conversation with yourself that says, I'm not perfect, but I'm evolving. That's the kind of self-talk that strengthens your spirit and realigns you with your original design. Then comes surrender, the hardest yet most liberating step. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving over. It's when you stop fighting the process and allow the process to shape you. It's when you finally admit that control was an illusion all along. You've been trying to force doors that were never meant for you, trying to fix people who were never your assignment, trying to make sense of seasons that were only meant to teach you to trust. Surrender is when you say, I'm done pretending I have it all figured out. It's when you let go of who you thought you had to be so you can become who you truly are. Daily life gives you so many examples of this truth. Think about how your phone works. It needs to disconnect to recharge. You plug it in, step away, and let it rest so that it can function again. You don't panic when your phone needs to recharge, yet when your soul needs to rest, you call it weakness. You owe your spirit the same care you give your devices. You can't keep giving from an empty battery. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to pause, to reflect, and to reconnect. In life, everyone wants to be seen, but few are willing to step into the unseen. Everyone wants the spotlight, but few are willing to stand in the shadows where growth truly happens. The seed must be buried before it blooms. You can't grow while clinging to comfort. The quiet seasons, those lonely nights, those silent mornings, that's where character is built, where your faith matures, and where your vision takes shape. You may feel invisible right now, but invisibility is part of the design. You're not being ignored, you're being incubated. When you isolate yourself, you start to hear divine whispers you missed in the crowd. When you reflect, you gain understanding of what really matters. And when you surrender, you unlock peace that striving could never give. That's when reconnection begins. Not in chaos, but in calm, not in the crowd, but in the quiet, not in control, but in release. You start realizing that the most powerful version of you isn't the one trying to prove something, it's the one that's at peace with itself. And that peace only comes when you finally stop chasing noise and start embracing stillness. The time has come to stop existing and start living. You have spent enough years pretending to be someone else, hiding behind layers that were never meant for you. Life is not waiting for you to be ready. It is moving right now. And every second you hesitate, every day you postpone, every excuse you make, you drift further away from the person you were created to be. This is your moment to rise, to awaken, to reconnect with the real you, the one God designed before the noise of the world distracted your soul. You were never created to blend in. You were born to break barriers. You were never meant to live in the shadows. You were called to be the light. There's something inside you that the world desperately needs. And if you don't bring it out, no one else can. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs authenticity. It needs people who are bold enough to say, this is who I am. This is what I'm called to do. And I refuse to die with my potential still locked inside me. Every scar you carry is proof that you survived what tried to destroy you. Every tear you shed was watering the soil of your purpose. Every setback you faced was a setup for your strength. You didn't go through all that pain just to go back to pretending. You didn't endure those storms just to stay silent. You've come too far to let fear win now. The same fire that once seemed to burn you is actually refining you. You are not broken. You are being built. You are not losing. You are learning. You are not behind. You are being prepared. There comes a time when you must look at yourself in the mirror and say, enough. Enough pretending. Enough settling. Enough living small. That's the day your real life begins. When you make a decision to stop being who the world told you to be and start being who you were meant to be. You can't change your past, but you can rewrite your future. You can't control every storm, but you can decide how you'll stand in the rain. And when you finally decide to live authentically, the world will have to adjust to your truth. You don't need permission to evolve. You don't need validation to rise. You don't need applause to keep walking your path. You are already approved by the one who created you. You are already chosen, already equipped, already enough. Stop waiting for someone to open a door for you when you were born to build your own. Stop asking others for a seat at their table when you were designed to create your own table. The world belongs to those who dare to remember who they are. You've been underestimated, overlooked, and misunderstood, but that doesn't define you. It refines you. Diamonds don't shine in comfort, they shine under pressure. Eagles don't soar in crowds, they rise alone. Don't be afraid to stand alone if it means standing in truth. The real you will always feel uncomfortable in places that require pretending. That's the sign that your spirit is awakening, that your purpose is calling. There's a warrior inside you that's been silent for too long. There's a dream in your heart that refuses to die. There's a fire in your soul that no disappointment can extinguish. You were not made to simply survive. You were made to conquer. You were made to lead, to create, to impact, to inspire. The pain you've faced was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your power. So rise again, even if your legs are trembling. Speak again, even if your voice shakes. Believe again, even if your faith feels weak. Because strength is not found in perfection. It's found in persistence. The strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who rise every single time they do. One day, the world will look at you and call you blessed. They'll wonder how you made it, how you kept going, how you turned pain into purpose. And you'll simply smile and say, I reconnected with the real me. That's the moment everything changes. When you stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. When you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward for truth. You are a masterpiece still in progress. You are light wrapped in skin, strength hidden in scars, hope disguised in human form. Don't die with your dreams still buried inside you. Don't leave this earth as a stranger to your own potential. The world needs what's inside you, your voice, your vision, your energy, your truth. So rise with faith, rise with fire, rise with purpose. Because the moment you choose to reconnect with the real you, you don't just change your life. You ignite the world around you. And when that happens, everything that once felt lost finally makes sense. The time is now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because the world is waiting for the real you to show up.